Hi, everyone. Welcome to Before the BFP. I'm your host, Hafsa, and today we have Sarah. Hi, Sarah. Welcome to the podcast.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
Welcome on. We appreciate you coming on to share your story. Sarah, do you want to tell listeners a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, for sure. So, my name is Sarah, and we connected, Hafsa and I, because of a thread, actually, because I am finally pregnant with our miracle IVF girl, which we're going to talk about today. But I am a New Jersey native. I am a business owner. I own my own online business. And I live in New Jersey with my doggies. I can never be too far away from a Broadway show. So that's kind of like me in a little bow.
Thanks so much for sharing that. Sarah, do you want to jump into your story?
Yeah,
Feel
for
free to
sure.
start at whatever point makes sense to you.
Yeah, so right after my husband and I got married, like we knew right away that we wanted to start trying for a baby. And I was doing all the things that, they recommend, meaning doctors and all the unsolicited advice that you hear. I was tracking ovulation with BBT and LH strips. I was taking the Mucinex. And a few months went by and nothing was happening. And I'm like, this is weird. So I sent my OB a WTF message on my chart. And I was like, what is happening? Like, my body is doing everything perfectly. What is happening? And she said the thing that I will forever be grateful for, but that changed our lives forever. And I'm so glad she said it. And I hope more OBs take this first step, which is it can't hurt to get him tested, meaning my husband. And I didn't even think about that because everybody always blames the woman. And
Yes.
so, long story short, we got his first semen analysis. Were immediately referred to a fertility clinic because every single value was either low or abnormal. Two other analyses at the fertility clinic just to confirm and get everything approved for insurance. Again, everything super low and abnormal. And we were kind of pushed right to IVF. Uh, and I thought because, it's just male factor that we would get pregnant one, two, three. And that was not the case. We ended up having to go through 2 egg retrievals and 2 frozen embryo transfers before the 3rd frozen embryo transfer finally worked, which is this sweet little baby girl that I'm pregnant with right now. So it has been a journey.
Do you want to walk us through your feelings when you analyses back the very first one?
Yeah, oh my gosh, I remember that moment, like, clear as day. I can't remember why I was there, but I was visiting my parents' house and I was in the bathroom, like finishing in the bathroom. My OB called and I picked it up right away because I was expecting the call. Like when she said, everything is pretty low and abnormal. Like I'm going to have to refer you to a fertility clinic. You guys are probably going to need IVF. I just like fell to the floor and started sobbing because my biggest fear in my adult life was not being able to have kids. I don't know what it is. I don't know if I had like this premonition that this was going to happen, but I would just like hear other people who were experiencing infertility or were experiencing loss. And I would just say, like, oh, God forbid, that's us, like, God forbid. And then it was us. And then it was coming true. And so I just like fell to the floor and started sobbing.
That's so That's so interesting, actually. I've heard this from a few other women that I've spoken to on the podcast, and
Hmm.
a couple of them have had this feeling their entire life that they're going to have trouble getting pregnant with no cause, no background information, nothing to validate this fear, and then it comes true. And it makes me wonder if we just know something about our bodies.
I know. And
It's
it's
just like an
so
underlying thing.
right, right. And it's so strange because, like, it wasn't my body that was, for lack of better words, like the issue, which we can
Yes,
talk
yes, I completely
about.
understand what you're trying to say, by the way.
Yeah, which we can talk about more. But, I always say with male factor infertility, I feel like there's no other. medical diagnosis where something is quote unquote wrong with the other person, but like the partner has to go through all of the surgeries and treatments and side effects and mental load and physical load. Aside from, like, an organ donor, like, right, if you were donating an organ, like, maybe you would have to go through some of that, but it's such a like, a mind F kind of situation because it's like, well, there's nothing wrong with my body, but because there is something that is going wrong with your body, like, I have to be
Yeah.
subjected to all of this.
Yeah, it's kind of funny that everything in terms of pregnancy, I guess, everything has to be on the woman. So, like, even if it's male factor, like you're just saying, you have to do all the things. Like, I don't think
Mhm.
there's any treatments for male factor infertility beyond, like, they give you a couple of supplements sometimes. Correct me if I'm wrong, by the way.
Yeah, I think they are definitely getting better, like, I know there's, like, the micro Tessie surgery, like, where they can, like, go in and, like, find semen, like, I know that, like, things are advancing, but, like and we were very
Good.
lucky to be a couple that, like, we really just needed the help of ICSI, which is where, like, they take the sperm and inject it directly into the egg for anybody listening that doesn't know. We were very lucky to be one of those couples, like, there were enough sperm to do that, but some couples don't. Some couples end up having to use donor sperm, and it's you never know until you test it. It's not like your husband will know or your male partner will know these
Yeah.
things before you get married if he has not done this testing, so it's such an interesting situation.
Something you mentioned, like, you're so glad your OB told you guys to get your husband tested. I was very shocked. So when I went into fertility treatments, they also said, like, "We can start you on things," because I had PCOS, so I was the issue. But they were like, "Well, you could also your husband could also be an issue. So, like, make sure to get him tested." But that was during COVID, so they weren't doing sperm analyses at the time, so we had to wait, like, a couple months. But my sister-in-law, she lives in California, and, like, apparently they had her do all this stuff without ever doing, like, a sperm analysis first. And then they eventually did
Wow.
one, like, I think, like, after doing a whole bunch of procedures to her, and I was like, "What? That's crazy." Like, okay, fine, his sperm analysis did come back fine, but what if it hadn't? And she had gone through all this, like, stuff before they thought, "Oh, let's test his sperm." So she had I think she did, like, a couple of procedures that are, like, painful. I can't remember exactly. I think she had, like, the HSG and, like, something else, but it's I was like, "What is happening in California that, like" or at her clinic, I guess I should say, that they don't think, like, "Let's do the easiest, most least invasive test first."
Truly, it is mind-boggling to me, like, I almost want it to be standard practice that if a woman goes in and tells her OB, like, "We're gonna start trying." I almost feel like it should be standard practice to be like, "Okay, awesome. Get your husband tested." Because that can prevent months and years of hardship that has nothing to do with your body, and it's such
Yeah.
valuable information to know because then you can do something about it. Because I know for me, and I'll be totally transparent, we didn't even wait the 6 months before I kind of sent that message, the WTF
Yeah.
message to my OB and ended up at the clinic. So
I
I
don't
can't
blame
imagine
you.
people that wait years and aren't like the male partner has not been tested and it ends up being a sperm issue.
Yeah, I waited 1 month. And I was like, "Why am I not pregnant?" And she was like, "Well, you know, it doesn't happen that quickly." And I was like, "I don't care, come check me." And so I went in and she was like, "Yeah, like, you're not pregnant. You have PCOS." Um, so I was like, "Oh, cool." She's like, "You can directly go to a fertility clinic now." But I think it's crazy that they make a lot of people wait 6 months to a year before they even because a year is a long time. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know why people think like, "Oh, it's just a year." I mean, I guess when you're trying to conceive, like, it feels long, but, like, I guess to other people, a year is not that long. But, like, a year is you could have had a whole baby by then.
I know. I was telling my one of my best friends who's currently trying to conceive, she's like, "Oh my god, it just, like, feels so long between cycles," and I'm like, time doesn't go by any slower than when you are trying to get pregnant and waiting for that next period or to see if you have a period. It goes by so slow. So, yeah, I agree. I cannot imagine waiting a year. I'm like very type A, I'm a planner. And so, like, I want to, like, I want to know what is going on. What's going on? What tests can we run? What is the right next step to do? Like, I can't just like wait and see. It's just not my personality.
It's not my personality either.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Um, Between cycle day 1 and your next cycle day 1, there is such a range of emotions that you, like, go through. It's like you live a whole lifetime in that time, I feel like.
Yes.
And the worst thing to me is pregnancy symptoms are the same as period symptoms.
Mhm.
I hate it.
Oh, yeah. It didn't matter if I was in, like, a natural cycle, like, we were trying naturally, or if I was in a frozen embryo transfer cycle, because even when you're in a frozen embryo transfer cycle, those symptoms are heightened because you're probably on progesterone at least, and then estrogen, and so it totally mimics pregnancy symptoms when you put it into Google, or if you're like me, I feed ChatGPT everything, and then it gives
Yeah.
the answers. So it's such a hard wait, but, like, I also wasn't somebody that, like, waited to test until I got my period or waited to test until beta, and so, like, I knew the answer pretty quickly during that wait.
Yeah. I'm a serial tester. I
Mhm.
start testing. I would test out the trigger shot, and
Yep.
then I would wait until it came back or it didn't come back. And at 10 DPO, I was like, "Well, that's it. It's over now."
Yeah.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
think I've
So I only had a trigger. So my first 2 frozen embryo transfers were fully medicated, so we did not use a trigger. So those tests were stark white from the beginning and remained stark white until the end. However, my 3rd frozen embryo transfer, we did a modified natural cycle and we did use a trigger shot. And I knew from the beginning, I'm like, I have to test out the trigger because I have to see that it went away, because then I'll know if I test again and there's a line that it's actually from my HCG. I'm actually so glad I did it, and I recorded a video for it for TikTok, and so many women have since found that video because they're probably trying to look at, like, when does the trigger come out? But yeah, I also had to do that.
I'm very type A and I have to do that because what if it didn't go away? What if it was all in my
Right.
head? But, like, if the proof is in front of you, you can believe it. Do you follow Kelly Girardi?
Yes, I do. Yes.
What was I gonna say? I completely forgot. But she did, like, all the math behind what the half-life of the trigger is and,
That
like,
is
how long it'll be
amazing.
in your system. And I was like, "Yes, like, this is the information I need." So
Yes.
she posted that. If
Yes.
Kelly ever listens to this,
1,000%.
we love you.
Yes. But yeah, when I tested earlier than I had ever tested on my previous transfers, I tested at, like, 4 days past transfer. And I got, like, my first true positive, and that was the first time I had ever seen a positive pregnancy test. We had never gotten pregnant before. We have never experienced loss before, thank God, and so, that was just, like, such a wild moment. I called my mom before, like, the dye even finished running through
Really?
that test, because I really wanted to tell my husband in person, because so much of, like, the surprise is stripped away from you. You really don't get much surprise. So I'm like, I just wanna tell him in person, but, like, it was early afternoon. I'm like, I need to tell somebody, like, I need to share this with somebody. So, yeah, I called my mom before, like, the dye even finished running through that first response, because I saw a line, like, I had never seen a line on a test, and I knew that it was my HCG because I had tested that trigger out.
That's amazing. I also did the same thing. I feel like
Yeah,
our moms are, like, our first my mom's my go-to for, like, almost anything if my husband's not around. My
yeah,
husband was actually away, I think he had to go somewhere for work. I think he was in Texas or Canada, I can't remember, and, I tested at night, and I got the cheapies off Amazon, and I
uh-huh,
tested, and it was negative, and I was like, "F this," and I threw it. at the toilet, and it, like, landed on top of the toilet. So the next day, I, like, get up and I'm like, "I'll take another test," but I didn't because I ran out of tests. And the old one was there, and I was like, "Well, I should throw this in the garbage." I picked it up, I thought there was a line, and I'm like, "Am I blind?" And I immediately took the test to my mom to I walked to her house, and I was like, "Mom, is this like, what is this?" She's like, "I don't know. I've never taken pregnancy tests." I'm like, "What are you talking about? You have 5 kids." She's like, "Yeah, I just waited till I was, like, super pregnant, and I could tell." And I was like, "Okay."
Oh my god, that's funny.
Yeah, and she was like, I think that means pregnant." I was like, "Yeah, I think so too, but what if it's expired?" By the way, I don't know if I believe in EVAP lines.
You know, I don't know. The only experience I have with them is I had kept, like, like, one of my first response, like, early result tests, like, the ones with the pink cap, back from when we were trying naturally, and I found it, like, a year later, and it had an evap line on it, but
Oh,
again, it had
really?
been a year.
Okay.
But I think because I'm so chronically online and on TikTok, I have seen unfortunate evap lines on people's tests who unfortunately were not pregnant, and I have never personally gotten one. That would be horrible
Yeah.
because I would believe it.
Yeah. I would never believe another pregnancy test again if that happened to me.
I know, but yeah, I have seen it happen.
Oh, boo. You're taking away like, you can look at the test the next day, and it'll be
Yeah.
positive feeling. That's so funny, but like, everything is scheduled
Mm.
when you're going through infertility. And I think that is one of the things that bothers me the most, that I'll never have a spontaneous, like, "Oh, I'm pregnant" thing. I'll never, like, be able to share that with my husband. It kinda makes me sad because, like, I think a lot of people also have this, is their progesterone drops down and they'll miscarry and then they'll get their period. So they'll have a chemical they'll never even know. And I think, like, I always have to test just to make sure that I'm not going to have a chemical. And I really wish we could get some spontaneity in something.
Oh, yeah, the spontaneity is, like, almost completely taken out of everything because everything is so planned and so scheduled because it has to be.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, like, with waiting for my husband to come home from work and being able to, like, set up the camera and, like,
Yeah.
just announce it to him that way, like, I just find, like, kind of little pockets of, like, how can we get a little bit of normalcy into this journey? Like, for example, we knew the gender before they or the sex of the embryo before they even, put it in my hoo-ha.
I forgot about that.
Yeah, but we still got a gender reveal cake because
You deserve it.
like, our Facebook family and friends didn't know,
Yeah.
and that was something that we didn't wanna miss out on, and so, yeah, I have found just, like, finding little pockets of normalcy and things that you can do to try and, like, sprinkle in some of those, like, traditional things is fun, like, it feels good.
You feel almost normal.
Yeah, yeah. And, like, the thing is, so I don't know if we're gonna have another baby. Like, I am gonna be totally transparent with you. Pregnancy has been probably one of the hardest things that I've ever had to go through, not physically, but mentally, because I'm so afraid every single day that, like, this is gonna be ripped away from me in some way or another. So I don't know if I can go through this again, but I always say if we did, like, we have genetically tested embryos. I don't know that I would even wanna try naturally because we have genetically tested embryos waiting for us.
Yeah.
So, it's just it's interesting, like, there's almost like a comfort in that.
Yeah, no, I completely understand. So, like I said, we're trying to conceive our 3rd. I am torn because I could go, like, they have the carrier testing,
Mhm.
um, that you can, like, get done, and we did it for our first 2, and, like, for the 3rd one, it's like they expand the list every single time. Like, our DNA is not gonna change, but the amount of things that they can test for, it increases every year over year. It just gets better and better. And my husband's like, "Well, it doesn't matter, like, we'll still have a kid." And I'm like, "Yeah, but why not? Like, we have
I'm
this,
the same way.
chance."
I'm
Yeah.
like, the more information you could give me, the better.
Yeah, like, I want that report for later. I actually used it for my son when my son was going through some stuff when he was younger. I was like, look at this report right here. Look at it." And she was like, "Oh, yeah, this is, like, super helpful. This actually, like, tells us some information about both of you guys." So there's kind of like a information is power,
Yeah,
and
I agree.
having that, like, when everything is planned, you know everything. I know some women have told me that, like, they don't know exactly like, when they got pregnant, so they don't know, like, their exact, like, whatever, but we don't have that. Like, I can tell you date, time, minute, and
Yeah, like,
I
we
can
know
tell.
the exact minute
Yeah,
that that
I'm 3
embryo was
weeks,
put
4
back in
days,
our
2
uterus.
hours. Yeah,
Yep,
exactly. Yeah, so I agree. I guess I should complain less. There is a pro and a con to both sides.
totally, and I know so many people even in, like, my, IVF circle that I'm exposed to on social media that are trying naturally, and that's perfect for them, like, if that's what feels good. Uh, I just
It's probably
so we
cheaper.
yeah. Oh my god, 1,000% it's cheaper, but, I don't know if you had, like, at 12 weeks, you had, like, the nuchal translucency scan
Mhm.
with your pregnancies, which is where they measure the fluid behind the neck. So, we had that at 12 weeks, and hers came back elevated, and
Okay.
the fact that she was a PGTA tested embryo gave the doctor and the geneticist, like, so much confidence that, like, it was probably just a few like, millimeters or whatever it is off, like, that there was not anything, like, horribly wrong, and then, like, paired with, like, our low risk NIPT results, but, like, if I was to conceive naturally, like, we wouldn't have that information, and so, I don't know, there's just a lot of comfort that comes with knowing that I know PGT testing is not perfect, but
That was going to be my question, like, d does PTT testing cover, like, a lot of things, or is it more chromosomal?
it's all chromosomal abnormalities.
Wow, that's awesome.
Let me rephrase that. It can only test for chromosomal abnormalities, whereas, like, if you did, like, an amniocentesis, like, that can test for other things. Certainly doesn't cover PGTA certainly doesn't cover every single thing under the sun that could go wrong, but it's certainly a very valid test,
Mhm.
even for 2 quote unquote "healthy" people in their 30s. I mean, I was in my 20s actually when I got both my egg retrievals.
That's awesome.
Yeah, but we still had abnormal embryos come back, and so I'm so glad that we did do the PGT testing.
Yeah, I've heard I my chiropractor, like, when I was in my 20s and not trying to get pregnant and didn't really pay attention to this stuff as much, he was going through IVF with his wife, and he was telling me that PGT testing used to cost, like, an additional, like, 15 or 20,000 on top of, like, the IVF cycle already, and now
Oh.
I'm wondering what is it now? Because 'Cause it's been 12 years since then.
So it differs per clinic, but I think my clinic I'm, like, blanking on the exact cost, but I think it's 2 to $300 per embryo that you send.
Well, that's much better. I remember, like, feeling
Mhm.
so bad for him because they chose not to do it
But
because they
not all
just.
clinics are like that. I know some clinics do, like, a package, like, if you have, like, more than one, it's, like, a base price of XYZ, and I'm like, "That is BS." Like, you should really only be paying for the embryos that you're sending off. So, like, our first egg retrieval, we only got 5 embryos that made it to the blast stage. I
Yeah.
say only, I'm very grateful for those 5. But, however, the second egg retrieval, we had 12 that made
Oh,
it to
wow.
the blast stage. So that was significantly more expensive, but, like, my husband and I were both like, "It is a non-negotiable." Like, if we are going through this process and spending this time, money, and energy, like, we're going to get them PGT tested.
Yeah, especially because if there is a chromosomal abnormality, sometimes that can cause a miscarriage, so all your
For
money
sure.
would be down the drain
Mhm.
and the mental pain on top of it.
Yeah, and again, like, PGT is not perfect. People love to tell me that when I make videos about it. Um,
Okay, but it's better than
it's
nothing.
not perfect, but I think it gives you a lot of really valuable information, and it can prevent a lot of, it can prevent a lot of heartache down the line.
Yeah, I agree with you. One thing you mentioned is, like, the mental toll of pregnancy after infertility. I think that's something that's not talked about enough because, like, you all you wanted for so long is to get pregnant, and then when you're pregnant, you can't really enjoy it because you're always worried, you're always just thinking about the next worst case scenario of, like, "How could I lose this?" So,
Yeah, I have, made it my goal to talk about it a lot because I don't see a lot of people talking about it, and I get messages every single time I share, like, I actually just shared yesterday, and so many people message me and they're like, "Yes, this is what I feel every single day," but, like, truly every single day, I wake up, and if I don't feel her right away, I'm like, "Alright, I'm gonna give her another hour, and then I'm gonna, go to the hospital to get monitored at triage." Um, because I'm just, so terrified at any moment that something is gonna happen. Even though I am, so closely monitored and, there's really no proof that anything is wrong, you're just so afraid of any of the hypothetical situations that could happen, and it's exhausting. That's why I feel like 1, time is going by so slow, and 2, I cannot wait for October to get here and this pregnancy to be over, not because I'm not so grateful to be pregnant, not because of any of the physical symptoms, I'll be transparent, I'm 31 weeks and sometimes, I still throw up. My morning sickness technically, has not gone away.
you
I want it to be over because it is mentally and emotionally exhausting to wake up like that every day.
yeah. No, I completely understand. With my son, he was my first pregnancy after infertility.
Mhm.
I was anxious all the time, and I'm gonna be honest with you, I hope it's different from for you, but it doesn't go away after you have the baby.
No, and so many people tell me that, but my response is at least when she's here, I can walk over to her and see that she's breathing,
Yeah.
or I can strap the owlet sock to her foot and monitor her oxygen.
Yes.
Right now, I kind of just have to guess that, Miss Girl is doing okay in there,
Yeah.
but, you don't know, and so I'm very happy to transfer that anxiety to, something else once she's here, but at least I won't have to guess, is she breathing?
Yeah. It is pretty awful what worrying about things like that. I got, like, a at-home Doppler to use because I thought it would help me with my anxiety, but I had an anterior placenta, so I could never hear him.
I always say, at-home Dopplers are banned in my house by me because 1, I know I would be so obsessive with it, and 2, I'm not a professional that knows how to, use it perfectly, and I know, if there was a day, where I couldn't find her, I would absolutely freak out and take myself to the hospital, and that's just not worth it for me. I will say, until I could feel her move, I went for elective ultrasounds at least every week, if not every other week.
Really? Where
Yep.
did you go?
Yeah, there's, a ultrasound boutique place by my house, 15 minutes away, and they offer, quick peek scans that are literally, 5-10 minutes, just, check on baby, make sure they're good, and it's the best money that I've spent this pregnancy because
Peace of
I
mind.
needed that peace of mind to keep going until the next week.
Yeah. I actually someone else mentioned that to me, I think a couple of episodes ago. They said that they would go and get like really quick scans just to make sure that everything was okay because they had a history of recurrent loss and getting these scans like kept them sane.
Totally.
Yeah,
Because
did you
especially when you can't feel them moving yet, that's the only proof that you have. And it was so reassuring. It was again, like, the best money that I could have spent during the pregnancy.
Yeah. With my one thing that I'm really grateful for being going through the infertility clinic or the fertility clinic is you get treated like more. So, like, if you get I called my OB after I got pregnant because I didn't realize I was supposed to stay with my fertility clinic. And I was like, "Yeah, I'm pregnant." They're like, "Cool, see you in 12 weeks or 10 weeks." And I was like, okay. And my fertility clinic saw me like 3 times before they graduated me. And then, I was at like 7 or 8 no, I think it was 8 weeks when I graduated. And then I got another scan at 10 weeks, which made me feel so much better, a dating scan, even though I was already dated. And then you get the nuchal scan. And so, like, I was able to calm myself that way. And then I also got a elective ultrasound, but it wasn't they didn't have peace of mind ones back then. It was just like a 3D one, and it was, like, later in pregnancy.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's so true. When you come from a fertility clinic, it rocks your world to end up at the OB because at the fertility clinic, you are so heavily monitored every time you walk in there, blood work, ultrasound, doctor comes in, like,
Yeah.
you are so heavily monitored and, like, you know that you're gonna be so taken care of at that appointment. And then when you switch to OB appointments, it's like, "Hi, how are you? Okay, let's put the Doppler on. Okay, good. All right, bye."
Oh, don't forget, quick measure. Let's measure the
Yeah.
belly. That's it. That's all. You get, like, 5
Yep.
minutes after waiting an
Yep.
hour and a half.
Yep. And so it's literally rocks your world. And so after the first OB appointment, I was like, "Oh, no, no, like, this is not gonna do. This is not gonna do." I posted in, like, my local moms group asking, like, if anybody has ever been to an elective ultrasound around here. This place was, like, super highly recommended. And yeah, we have been very loyal customers.
Yeah, that's me and pre-mom. I would take tests after I got pregnant to make sure I was still pregnant.
Oh yeah, I mean, I did that until our first ultrasound
Yeah.
because I just needed some kind of tangible proof that she was still in there.
Yeah. I love my fertility clinic because they made me get betas all the time,
Mhm.
and I was like, "Yes, proof." I love numbers. Numbers, proof, science, blood work, it's all for me. Like, it
Yep,
keeps me
I
sane, it
completely
keeps me
agree.
happy. Sarah, if you could go back to Sarah in the thick of it, Sarah trying so hard, not getting pregnant, what would you say to her?
I would give her some tough love because I think she would have had an easier time had she known some of, like, the tangible truths. Because again, I was so delusional and I was like, "Oh my god, it's gonna work out the first time. We're gonna get pregnant in 2 seconds." So, the first thing I would tell her is no timelines. Throw away the timelines. Those were the hardest things to reach and still not have the baby. I don't know if you've ever heard of the, like, old wives' tale where, like, you wrap the blanket and put it under the Christmas tree, and then by, like, next Christmas, you'll have a baby. Well, that blanket had been wrapped for 2 years under the tree, and there was no baby, and I kept saying, "Oh, by Christmas, by Christmas." So, no timelines. I would tell her that it does not always work on the first time, and it doesn't mean that there's anything wrong with you. By sharing my story on social media, I have come to find that so many people have to go through multiple transfers in order to achieve a pregnancy, but I didn't know that, and I quite honestly didn't even wanna think about that. So I think I would just give her some of, like, the tangible truths and a little bit of tough love. Um, Overall, I think I've done, like, a really great job with, like, setting boundaries and protecting my heart and my mind and my body because it's a journey. Like, it is a hard journey, like, the hardest thing I have ever had to go through in my life, which is why I don't know if I could do it again.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think overall, I would just give her a little bit of the truths that I know now.
Your advice on no timelines and don't think it's gonna work the first time is so valid because even if you know the numbers, like, oh, it's only 60% like chance of working, you're like, well, I'm not the 40%. Like, I've already had all the bad. The 40% is not me. I'm gonna be the 60%.
Right, and I was especially saying that because 'cause I'm like, it's not a me thing. It's not a me thing, so of course it's gonna work the first time."
Yeah.
And it didn't.
Easiest way
I
to get
mean,
your heart broken.
we literally fell into the normal statistic of 3 euploid embryos to get to a pregnancy. Um, so yeah, it's so valid, and so, like, I always talk so openly and vulnerably about my experience on social media because I just wish there were more voices that were saying those things, so I knew that they weren't so rare. Like, it's actually really common what I experienced. It was really sucky, but it's not uncommon.
Yeah, sucky. It is so sucky.
Mhm.
Sarah, are there any resources that you'd like to share? Anything that helped you?
Mm.
Podcasts, books, TV shows, anything that helped you?
The TikTok and Instagram communities. My personal friends and family are some of the most lovely, caring humans in the entire world, but they have no idea what it's like to go through IVF and to go through this journey. And by sharing my story on social media, I have connected to so many women on TikTok and Instagram that, like, I talk to on the daily almost. Like, I'm going to lunch with one of the girls next week.
Really?
It's those communities of women have helped me more than any book or podcast that I can possibly read. And if you're going through this journey and you don't know anybody that is going through IVF, I highly recommend, like, connecting on Instagram or TikTok with me or any of the other IVF girlies. Everybody is very kind and open, and, like, truly I wouldn't have gotten through my journey and, like, continue to get through my journey if it wasn't for the community that I've built on social media.
I really agree with you. I used to live on the pre-mom forums
Mhm.
on Facebook. That was where, like, I would be like, "Yeah, I see a line on your test," or "Do you see a line on my test?" or what does this chart mean?" And, like, LH strips and stuff. So that was the community is so helpful, and I completely understand about the family because I have 4 brothers, so they're very loving, have no idea in the world what's going on.
Yeah, yeah, and again, like, my friends and family are so lovely, the best support system, they're gonna be incredible when the baby's here, but when it comes to IVF and infertility, like, you just don't know the intricacies of it unless you've been through it, because
That's so
every
true.
step feels so heavy, and it's so hard to relay that to somebody who has never walked that walk before.
Yeah, it's so true. Sarah, where can people connect with you if they would like to?
Yeah, so I would love for you guys to connect with me. My TikTok and Instagram are both at Sarah and Babes, and I share literally everything. And I would love for you to send me a DM and connect. And yeah, those are the best places to find me.
Sounds great, Sarah. I'll link that below in the show notes page so that anyone can connect with you if they'd like to. And Sarah, thanks so much for coming on. We really appreciate you sharing your journey.
Thank you so much for having me.